Today's guest shares her insights on the first legal steps families should take, common mistakes to avoid, and essential legal documents to have in place when caring for aging parents and planning for long-term care. Whether you're just starting this journey or looking for expert advice, this episode is packed with valuable information. Stay tuned for an enlightening conversation. Welcome to Wealthy After 40, where I help you turn retirement uncertainty into a clear, actionable plan. If you're thinking about retirement but feel unsure whether it's even possible, I understand. The gap between where you are now and where you want to be can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to. Hi, I'm Daylene Higgins, founder of Elevate Finances and your personal financial coach. Having retired at the age of 50 and have enjoyed over 2 years of retirement bliss, I'm here to help you create your retirement dream and make it a reality. No more wondering, no more guessing, just taking action and building a future for yourself. Join me each week as I guide you through essential topics such as budgeting, cash flow, lifestyle planning, debt and savings, insurance, Medicare and Social Security. Together, we'll build a strategy to help you achieve the retirement you've always desired. It's time to shift from uncertain to unstoppable and make your retirement dreams a reality. Are you ready to align your generosity and retirement vision for a life of true abundance? Join Allison Patterson, generosity strategist, and myself, Daylene Higgins, financial and retirement coach, for a powerful one-week Facebook event. During this event, we'll help you align your generosity with your values, whether it be time or money, and help you design a retirement with purpose that excites and fulfills you. The Facebook group opens March 3rd, so join the group, answer the questions, and you'll be approved on March 3rd, ready for a transformational experience. Search Aligned Abundance in Facebook or click the link down in the show notes. Excited to see you there. Welcome, Asha, to the podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation today around aging parents and Medicaid and how that affects our financial planning and looking forward to the future. But before we dive into that, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you help people?
Oh, thank you, Daleen, for having me. I am an estate planning attorney and elder law attorney. So I mainly handle retired individuals that need to kind of figure out long-term care and how it fits in with their retirement planning. I work mainly in New York and in the lower Hudson Valley and New York City area.
I'm so glad to bring your expertise onto here. Long-term care planning, I think, is something that is not talked about enough. And I did my own exploration after caring for my mother and, chose what was best for me. I'm grateful to have somebody come in and help listeners make that part of life easier. I mean, it's not an easy road and it can be tough, but knowing these things can help us make it an easier road. So my first question is, what are the first legal steps families should take when they begin assisting aging parents with their financial and medical decisions?
I think speaking to an attorney would be extremely helpful. Very low pressure. Just tell mom or dad, hey, let's just talk to an attorney. We're not signing anything. We're not telling them all our business. Let's just have a conversation. And so I think it eases them in. There's a lot of clients that come to me and do like a 1 hour session. I'll go through just the basics. It's a little scary to talk about long-term care, but I talk about it with them, explain it. And then they may not come back to me for a couple of years even, but they have with them armed with that conversation and maybe even a couple of recommendations in writing for me. Sometimes the kids will come back with that letter and say, hey, remember this 3 years ago? Let's chat now. So it's nice to do that.
And I'm sure that gets them thinking, that gets them on the same page with their parents. So going back a step, How does that child or children start initiating these conversations with their parents to even get them to go visit you or an attorney and start talking about this?
I know it's such a vulnerable topic to talk about, and then to have it with your kid that you change that person's diaper, like you help them through high school worries, and now you're like, oh, now I have to listen to you? Like, no, that's a lot on them. And I'll tell you, the worst thing a child can do is try to just take care of it all in one weekend. That's the worst thing. So they'll call me on Monday and say, "We want to sign documents on Friday, and I'll be on a flight in on Friday and come back Sunday." And it's such a dangerous way to approach it. Your parents will instantly know that their voice is not being heard, and you just want to be in control. So I think the best approach is to do it early and often and to have these conversations. Now, how you do it, I'm still struggling with that in my own families, but what I found is some people like to do it by mentioning a story about what happened to their friend and their parents, or did you hear what happened to this neighbor? And then kind of subtly talk about it. Or some people really love, hey, mom, next week, 5 p.m., we're going to talk about this. I know it's going to suck, it's going to be uncomfortable, but let's just have a chat, no pressure. I'll hear you out. Not going to say anything. I'm going to, stay silent while you talk about your concerns. And approaching it that way might be helpful to the parent as well.
I love that approach, especially if you're just wanting to talk and you don't have a story. Maybe there's not something that's happened to be able to give them that time to plan and prepare. I also think having been through it, another good thing is I need your help. And this is what I need your help with. We're going to talk about it more in depth. I think that is great. It is a difficult topic, I think, for both sides. So approaching it, I love your idea of approaching it very simple steps, small steps, taking advantage of those different things. So yeah, if you have a story, go talk to them. I love that. So what essential legal documents should families have in place to protect their parents and making sure that their wishes are honored?
Yeah, before you even get the documents, I always tell the clients two things. One is, and you could work on it with you as the adult child can help your parents with this. It's not being very intrusive. You're not asking for account numbers or exact values of everything, but it's nice to know what assets a person has. So if you know the name, oh, I got something in Citibank. Okay, great. We got to know at least that. What type of account it is? Is it a checking? Is it a savings, mom? What do you think? And then who the owner is. There's a lot of people that are like, well, I pay the bills and it's under I control everything, but it actually has my sister's name on it. So it is crucial to know who owns everything. Is it jointly owned? Is it singly owned? And then who the beneficiaries are. Once the attorney has an idea about that, it just makes the planning all that easier. To have a beneficiary on things means that controls. So if you have a checking account with the beneficiary, well, if your will says to all of my kids evenly, but you have one child as your beneficiary, well, that's what controls. The one child gets that full amount. So it's nice to kind of know who your beneficiaries are. And then once you have that list, I kind of tell people to write who's on your team. And, that includes who are the people you want to take care of you when you're sick, to come into the house, to visit you, to help you with your finances, to pay the lawn guy, who's in your team. And as an adult child, you have to be okay with, well, maybe I'm not part of that team. Maybe I'm going to help mom get all these documents, but I'm not going to be the one on that team. And we just have to kind of accept that as our role. And that's going to be hard, but everybody kind of has their strengths and weaknesses. And mom feels more comfortable with sister handling all the crucial healthcare decisions. I got to be okay with that because I'm doing something else for her. I'm being a benefit in other ways. And then once you got all that down, you come to the attorney. You get these basic planning documents. Every attorney will say the basic planning documents are crucial. There's three different categories I kind of put it as. One is all your healthcare talks. It feels like every single decision is a separate document. So, that's just how it is. That's just how the healthcare system is, much like the healthcare system in general. It's all complicated. So, you have one person for your medical decisions if you're not able to. Every state is different. So you might be Googling as an adult child, how can I help my parents? And oh, here's a template for a healthcare proxy. Well, that actually was for a Michigan template. You got to make sure you're Googling correctly and it's for the actual state that you live in. And so a healthcare proxy or a healthcare power of attorney in some states it's called, kind of assigns the one person that's going to be in charge of your medical decisions if you're not able to. What does that mean? When you're on death's door, yes, that is what it means, but it also means a lot of other things. When you're heavily medicated and you broke your leg and you just need a little assistance and you need someone to be there, the doctors to say, how much of this should I take a day and what are the side effects? It's nice to have someone else there. Or in a lot of cases, we're going to be dealing with families that have dementia, parents that have dementia. And so, yes, there should be someone there in the doctors or any kind of situation where they can make those medical decisions or just at least listen to what the doctor or the nutritionist or whoever else is talking. So the healthcare proxy is important. There's other documents, and I call them the supplemental documents that you might want to put the other kids' names in, because they're not as important, but they're important. So one of them is like the HIPAA form, who can access your medical records. It's really for that emergency situation where the ER doctor needs your cardiologist report. Okay, I'll get that for you, doctor, no problem. And then there's the living will. A lot of people get weary of this because you don't want full instructions on what exactly you want to happen in every single case. You want someone else taking care of that. We saw that a lot during COVID. You don't want something set in stone, but it's nice to have guidelines for your healthcare proxy agent. Hey, what do I want when I'm older? What kind of care do I want? Is it okay if I'm in a nursing home? Is mom going to get mad at me if I put her in a nursing home? Well, let's talk about it in the living will. What are some circumstances that you would be okay with? And then there's something called a burial disposition forms. Who handles all of your needs when you pass away, the funerals and all that? Those are the healthcare documents that are surrounding. Once I talk about this, people want to nap. They want to just forget about, everything. So I try to leave that to the end. The other two documents, the other two parts of the area is who is a power of attorney, which in my mind is the most important document. A power of attorney essentially says who is going to speak or act or sign on your behalf. Not for medical stuff, but for everything else. So again, who's going to pay the lawn guy? Who's going to, sign off on getting a ramp for the home outside so that you can comfortably go in and out? Who's going to apply for Medicaid if needed for long-term care? Who's going to access the funds in my bank account? So who is going to sign for you? Who is going to access your account? Who do you trust the most? That is the person you should put as your power of attorney. The mistake I find is that you put somebody who's really good at math. So, oh, my nephew went to Harvard, I'm going to put him. No. You don't put the person that's smart. You could outsource smart. You can't outsource trust. So you should always put someone you trust. And the other mistake I see is that people only put one person. Well, you can't count on this one person if God forbid something happens. So I always say at least two people placed on your power of attorney. And then the last, which I don't give a lot of deference to, is the will. I know it's important. People come to me, they call me and say, Asha, I need a will. But nowadays, 2025, it's a catch-all document. If you didn't do anything else during your lifetime to plan for your life, then fine. You're going to force your loved ones, your kids, to go to court and deal with it in front of a judge. But if you've made some smart decisions, not even involving an attorney, adding beneficiary designations, filling out all the correct forms, then you don't need to use that will in your lifetime. I tell my clients all the time, I hope they never have to use it, but we sign it anyway, just in case.
Okay, so I have a question, and maybe listeners do as well. What is the difference between a will and a trust?
Sure. So a will is a document that is a letter, it's like a list of instructions you are showing to the judge. No one else is looking at this will. The judge is looking at this will in court. So that means the judge is involved, a court is involved, there's filing fees involved, and it is public. And so these are all things that we want to avoid nowadays. So when you write, hey, when I pass away, these are all the things I want to happen, that is for the judge in court in public. And a trust, same thing, list of instructions, but it's only for your trustee, someone you trust, a person you designate, and it is completely private. And when you pass away, it discusses all of the things that are already in your trust during your lifetime you've transferred into, what will happen to those things when you pass away. So two things have to happen for you to avoid probate. One is to, court, judge, will. One is to create a trust. And the second is to transfer things into the trust. So that second part is really difficult for people. And so if you're an adult child, you have to know. You can't just tell mom, hey, mom, create a trust and then walk away and pat your back. Like, no. You need to do that second part, which is the grunt work, like filling out the forms, transferring all the assets into the revocable trust. So many clients that I've spoken to have said, oh, Asha, don't worry, we created this trust. We paid the thousands of dollars to purchase this trust, but it's not funded, which means there's nothing inside it. And so it's absolutely useless because when you pass away, nothing will privately be transferred to the children. It will be in court, public, in front of the judge.
Thank you for that explanation. There is a lot, but like you said at the very beginning, I think if everybody can just take it nugget by nugget, hopefully you have time to do that. As I was thinking, yes, as Gen Xers, a lot of us are helping or moving into that and aging parents, but what about us? We are in that situation where we need to do this for ourselves and start informing our children. So that's another good reminder right now. So what are some common mistakes families might make when managing their parents' finances or care needs, and how can they avoid them?
We'll be back after a quick break.
You've worked hard, saved what you could, and now retirement is on the horizon. But instead of feeling confident, you're stuck in uncertainty and wondering if you're truly prepared. The fear of running out of money keeps you up at night. You don't have a clear budget that shows you exactly what you need. You're tired of the guessing game, feel like you're dipping into savings too often, and you're also feeling guilty every time you spend. That's exactly why I created my Retirement Ready VIP session, a 2-hour deep dive where we'll map out your money, create a simple budget, and give you the steps needed to make retirement possible. Imagine knowing exactly where you stand, the confidence to spend, save, and retire without stress. Let's make that your reality by booking your Retirement Ready VIP session today at elevatefinances.us. The link is also down in the show notes.
Yeah, I think this trust is a big one where they just think, oh, we'll just get mom a trust and everything will be fixed. Well, sometimes it's not necessary. Maybe mom doesn't own a home. She's got all her accounts and beneficiaries. A trust is very costly. Why go through all that? And so, maybe it's just a way of getting the right beneficiaries and the assets and getting the right documents in order. So to just go into the talk with your lawyer, or if you do online documents, which is not recommended, but I know people do it, it's just assuming that you know what the documents are that you need. The other mistake that I see, well, the two common ones I see all the time is, one is the parents don't plan what to do at the house. And so the default is it goes through court, and they get so nervous as they age, and they're like, oh my God, I don't want it to go through court. I don't want the government taking my house. And so they quickly deed it to their children, or to one of their children. And so they think they have done the greatest thing and deeded it to their children, done. But in reality, it is hurting them in two ways. One is, in most states, there is a huge tax implication for the adult child. So this adult child thinks, oh my God, mom gave me the best gift ever. But once mom passes away and you try to sell this home, you are hit with such a large capital gains tax. So when mom calls you and says, I want to give you this house, just say, wait, hold on 1 second. Let's talk about this. The other thing that it does is it hurts you with Medicaid. And so if you need long-term care in the future, they will say, well, did you make any big gifts recently? And so you have to admit that you made this large gift to your son or daughter. The other mistake that people do is mom or dad will go to the bank and say, oh my goodness, I need my kids to kind of help me with my finances. The bank teller is not your attorney. It's not your Medicaid helper. They are answering your question. Rightfully, correctly, as a bank teller, they're answering your question. And they will say, add them as a joint account owner. Easiest way to fix your problem. You came in with the problem, I solved it.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's such a huge mistake. And so what happens is mom will say, no, they don't touch my account. I use it, I pay my bills, and I do everything. They're just on it in case something happens to me. But in reality, their name is in the account. They should be filing it under their taxes because they own this account. And that $20,000 you may have in your checking is really a $20,000 gift you gave your son, because your son has now access to that amount. Legally, he can withdraw that at any time. He doesn't have to ask mom. He can just take it. And if he predeceases mom, those funds may not automatically go to mom. The way the account is listed, it might actually go to his family. So that's like another tension you don't want to deal with. And then finally, if the son actually gets into any legal trouble, bankruptcy, divorce, whatever it is, things that, again, no one wants to think about, that account is now attached. So you're holding yourself so vulnerable to other people's, and in reality, you're losing control. So I think those are the two big mistakes that I have to like take a breath when someone tells me that they've done this and see how we can undo it. Yeah.
Those are great insights. And you mentioned Medicaid. So how does Medicaid play a role in long-term care, and how do we plan for that? How do we know when to use that?
Yeah, when you retire, when you turn 65, you can apply for something called Medicare. And that there is no threshold like, oh, you have to have a certain income, or oh, you have to be you turn a certain age, you get that insurance. And when you think of Medicare, you should think it's just like my work insurance. It covers my doctor's appointments, it covers my hospital visits. I still have to pay a copay. I still got to pay co-insurance. It's just like your okay work insurance, nothing to brag about, but that's Medicare. And so what people do is, instead of paying that copay or co-insurance, they get supplemental insurance for their pharmacy needs and everything else. So that's Medicare. When you look at Medicare or your supplemental insurance, they're a business just like any business. So they will pitch these things to you that are not really true. And one of them is that they will cover nursing home or care at home and things like that. But like everything else, there's so many caveats, details that are in fine print. And so they essentially do not cover long-term care. If you needed aides at home, we are living longer, we are desiring to age at home. So aides at home is the way you age at home. And so these aides cost money. They're about $20, $25 average around the country. And so per hour, that's a lot. And Medicare might cover that for a couple of hours a week, but not 24. And when you go into a nursing home, Medicare might cover the first 10 days, they promise 100, the first 10 days, 20 days, but nothing more than that. And so what do people do? Like what do you do when you can't cover the rest of it? The nursing home is demanding money, the home care agency is demanding it. There are really only three options that people have. One is to privately pay. I just told you some numbers. It's a little scary. You work really hard all your life, and now you got to pay $5,000 to some aide who rightly deserves it, but it's frustrating. You wanted to save that money for your grandkids or your kids. The other thing is nursing home costs way more than anybody thinks. It might have, it's like college. It's the baseline is 12,000, but it can really creep up to 20. And so you have to prepare for like a $20,000 a month bill that you privately pay for. You worked hard for that 401k, and you might want to start liquidating that for that 21,000. And when mom drains out all her accounts, what I see a lot is that the kids start using their funds, maybe taking out a second mortgage or a loan and all that. This is not what anyone needs or deserves after working hard for 40 years. So private paying should be the last option. The next option is long-term care insurance. A lot of people have it through their work, or they purchased it and they continued on, especially if you got something before 2000, 2001, 2000. It's a goal. It's amazing. Keep those products, pay for it, do what you need to do. However, nowadays the cost of long-term care is extremely expensive. What you're paying for is not having to go through Medicaid, going through the government. And so that's the high cost of it. It's like, hey, I know the care is not going to be that much, but I'm paying for peace of mind that I don't have to go through Medicaid. So that $2,000 a month bill that you've been paying since you were 70 is worth it to some people because they don't have to go through Medicaid. And what long-term care insurance does is say, hey, we'll cover the cost of aides, even if it's 24/7 or nursing home payment and things like that. They may have their own fine line, fine print or whatever, but most of them have that daily care accessible and available. And then lastly, there's Medicaid. And so when people think Medicaid, they have this stigma of welfare, and they're like, oh, that's not for us. We're over-resourced. We have a home. And it's immediately removed from everyone's minds. And I am here to say that it does not hurt to just check, just ask when you're doing that roadmap hour with your attorney. Hey, why not just ask when you're retiring and you're like, any chance I could qualify for Medicaid if I needed it in the future? Ask the question, because I think you would be surprised how readily attorneys will say, yes, you are eligible. Medicaid for seniors is different. The government knew that long-term care would cost a lot for seniors. They had a vision back then that it would be too much for many seniors. So they expanded the requirements for seniors. There are two kinds of Medicaid. There's long-term care at home and nursing home. Different names, different states, but basically care at home, one application, care in the nursing home, another one. And there's different requirements for each. So it's good to ask your specific state attorney. You might have a cousin that's an elder law attorney in a different state. No, you got to ask that attorney in that state. Um, what Medicaid will do is say, hey, you need to be under this certain threshold and certain assets, certain income. But what I tell people is, it's just like when you get write-offs for your when you're filing for taxes. No one thinks twice about doing those write-offs. They're like, oh, that's a write-off, that's a write-off. You worked hard for this income and you want to make sure you're maximizing everything so you don't have to pay too many taxes. And so it's the same approach you should take with Medicaid. I need to get the best care for mom, and if I need to move some money around so that mom is eligible, well, I'm going to do it. And if I need to get a power of attorney so that I can access mom's funds to move her money around, I'm going to do it. It might feel strange and weird to like take control of mom's money, mom who's been helping me all my life, for me to like get in there and get into the accounts, but it's helping her in the long run. It's helping her save her money, protect it from paying for long-term care, and to give it to the people that she wants. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that was so helpful. I probably was one of those like Medicaid, okay, we don't qualify, but such great advice to just ask the question. It doesn't hurt anything to inquire and explore with somebody, especially like yourself, who is knowledgeable in that and understands that. As we close, is there any other tidbit or advice or something that we didn't cover that you would love to share with listeners?
Yeah, I think this slow and steady wins the race for helping your parents. But I also think women, especially wealthy women, have to be a little kinder to themselves. They don't have to take on this huge responsibility financially and personally to take care of their parents. They can ask for help. They can be a little bit more mindful of protecting their own interests as well. I find a lot that, especially women, will, you know, take a leave off from work, and or use their savings to help mom, to help dad. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go above and beyond for your parents. I just think there are other smarter ways to do it. And because we're so compassionate and caring and loving towards our parents, especially older women, I just think we won't think twice about using our own funds and our time. And I think we should just take a step back and think, hey, how can we help each other? Both mom and me.
Yeah, that's wise not to lose yourself in that. So thank you for that. Listeners, if you would like to connect with Asha, her links are down in the show notes. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so appreciative. I love your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. Each week, my goal is to help you get one step closer to retirement so you can be excited for that big day instead of stressed and just hoping it will work out. If today's episode got you thinking about your retirement planning and wondering if you're on the right track, let's connect. Schedule a free Q&A call to discuss your retirement needs and how I can support you in creating a retirement that's possible. Or if you know you're ready, schedule your Retirement Ready VIP session to dive deeper into your retirement goals and design the life you want. Complete with a personalized roadmap, you'll be on your way to a dream retirement. Don't wait to take action. You deserve the retirement you dream about. Be sure to take that first step today. And if not, be sure to tune in next week for the episode to learn more and move yourself to a retirement that's possible.